Hey, what is up guys? It's Lupac back with another Albion Online video, and today we bring you the 5v5 meta snapshot for the month of July. Each month we take a look at the 5v5 meta in Albion Online and see how it's changed from the previous month, and this month is a real big one. We recently had the Percival patch drop, which had a load of features specific for the expansion, but it also came with a big balance change patch. A lot of stuff was changed. If you want to know the specifics of the changes, you can either look at the patch notes on the Albion Online website, or if you go back a few videos, I actually did a patch notes review video which breaks down the balance changes in more detail. In the meta snapshot, of course, we are going to talk about how things have shifted based on those patch notes, but not so much on the specifics. So head to that video if you want to see the specific stuff for the balance patch, but let's get on with the meta snapshot. So first up, as always, is the tanks. Now, tanks in this meta haven't really changed a lot. One of the big changes in the patch was the new Inertia Ring, or Ring of Tara as it was going to be called, ability for the hammers, which is a big AoE slow. We have seen a few people experimenting with it initially, but after the new meta kind of settled down, we went back to the same old status quo. That is the heavy mace and the ironclad bossing the tanking category. In my opinion, because of the prevalence of nature healers, which we're going to talk about shortly, I feel that the mace is the slightly better of the two, especially when you think about the bruisers and the dive comps we're seeing right now. It's questionable. The ironclad has a completely different playstyle, so the mace is more sustained pressure and winning the value game. The ironclad is more kidnap and kill or disruption playstyle. And right now, the heavy mace just has the edge. Both of these weapons are still top tier. Cartwheel is still amazing. I also feel that snare charge on the maces is just the best W ability. Like something like stun run or even inertia ring or anything like that just doesn't compare to how good snare charge is on a W ability for the maces. So right now, in my opinion, the heavy mace has the edge, and the ironclad is just behind. There are a few other options, as you can see from the tier list, but those are the best two right now. Hot picks for the maces and the ironclads as well. A lot of people are favoring that Guardian armor now with the enfeebling aura. However, Judicator armor is still playable. On the choke point maps, I've even seen some people using knight armor to a good effect with the wind wall ability. But with the amount of burst pressure that people can put out right now, you really do need a damage mitigation chest piece. So the Guardian armor will be the definite hot pick, and it's a lot cheaper because it's not an artifact. Demon helms, Bop helms, all popular, some tanks even running Fiend cows, and the Fiend sandals for the position swap ability still seem to be the go-to for the tanks in the current meta. Switching over to healers then, and as you probably guessed from earlier, nature is still the boss. We did get the new Knight's helm-like ability. For the Holy Staff, they got a new sort of Knight Helmet application with resistance buff, but it's still not as good as Holy Orb. Holy Orb is almost as good as an E ability. In fact, it was an E ability at one point. That said, they're still not outvaluing the nature. The nature now has become easier than ever to play with the new Refreshing Breeze ability, which instantly spreads the stacks from one player to everybody in an AoE. Now, this has led to a couple of things happening. Now, I've been in two minds about this ability, honestly, because I feel like Protection of Nature is still amazing. I think Protection of Nature is one of the best save skills in the game, best counter pressure skills in the game, and Rejuvenating Breeze or Refreshing Breeze, while it seems super powerful, I feel that a good nature healer in a 5v5 should be able to maintain stacks without the use of the Breeze ability. Now that said, even the top tier healers seem to be using it, especially against maces. You know, if a mace lands a really good purges stacks on all your players, you could just instantly refresh them to 3 stacks with the Breeze ability. On top of that, because it's an AoE on the target, somebody who would normally be out of range for you to heal, you can spread stacks to them using the Breeze ability without putting yourself forward in danger of dive comps and stuff like that. So it definitely does have its place. Some people are still using Protection of Nature, as you can see in this GVG in the background. Some people are using Refreshing Breeze. It's purely a matter of personal preference, and I would say based on what you're playing against. In the GVG example we've got here, Conflict are playing against an Ironclad, so they're not going to get purged as much, which means they can run Protection of Nature. Money Guild are playing against a Mace, they're getting purged, so they're running Refreshing Breeze, which makes a lot of sense to me. This has kept Nature at the top tier for healers though, like beyond anything else. And more importantly, it's also pushed the one-hand Nature staff, the basic one, right up the tree. Because the one-hand Nature E ability does healing based on how many stacks your team has got, and then it's a big AoE heal. It's got a very short cooldown and a very short wind-up time, which means with the Refreshing Breeze ability, you could pretty much guarantee everybody has 3 stacks, which means you can guarantee max value from the healing. And honestly, it's a not insignificant amount of healing. It's not as powerful as, say, a Fallen Staff reset, but it's like a diet Fallen Staff with a very short cooldown, very difficult to interrupt. And if you put Adjudicator armor down, if your tank's running Adjudicator and you cast this inside it, the heal is huge. So the one-hand Nature has immediately, because of this new ability, rocketed up the tier list and is looking great right now. And we'll see how it plays out if anyone's going to switch to it over the course of the next month before the next meta snapshot. The armor choices for healers haven't really changed this month either. It's still the Graveguard Helm for the save, the Druid Robe for the amplification with Obsessive Burst, or the Cleric Robe as a defensive if you're feeling more defensively orientated as a healer. And everybody's still running those Graveguard boots to get out of those nasty movement impairing effects. So bruisers then, the melee damage dealers. We've got some big changes here with the Carving Sword rocketing straight into S tier with the new parry ability coming in for swords. We knew swords were going to be good, but that Carving Sword Fearless Strike with the armor pierce, loads of people are loving it right now, and it really does pair well in dive comps to assassinate a target. We've got Carving Sword soloing Clothies in the current meta. It's a pretty good time for bruisers. So a few major changes that hit the bruisers was the new abilities on the spear, the axe and the sword all got new W abilities, plus the change to lifesteal meant that Hellion jackets and stuff like that and life leech abilities no longer give you healing sickness. So you don't have that healing reduction when using them, which means you get a lot more value when going deep. Soldiers' Armors is still super popular on bruisers, particularly axes. And the halberd right now is terrifying because you've got the soldier's armor charging them up. You've got the new spinning blades ability charging them up. Halberds can just do so much consistent pressure, and there's not a lot you can do about it because the spinning blades is up really often. All of their abilities are insta-cast, so you can't interrupt anything. This is why the halberd is in S tier, and you know, other things like the bear paws are not, because the bear paws doesn't always connect its E, which means it's not got that consistency. People were talking about the great axe, but the great axe is interruptible on the E. So these things, they never make S tier because there's counterplays. The halberd offers so much consistent value in a 5v5. It's just brilliant. The only time we're not seeing halberds really is when people are running a Carving Sword Trinity full dive comp. The Trinity is super good right now. The Impaler ability is being used. People are still using Forest of Spears. They've even got Deflecting Spin if you have energy troubles. But it's, you know, these three weapons are amazing. Usually you'll see if it's a double back line, you'll see the halberd in front. And if people are running a triple front line, you'll see the Carving Sword Trinity. The Broadsword and the Heron still in A tier. Very, very good backup options, and then a few things floating around in B tier. But the meta for melee is pretty consistent right now and very, very effective. These dive comps, the kill time from the dive comps is insane right now. Hot picks on your armor and weapons as well then, or your armor slots, sorry. The soldier's armor and the Hellion jacket are the go-to chess pieces. Stalker hood for the offensive option, and Fiend Cowl pretty good in the helm slot depending on if you're purge heavy. Most comps want to run at least one Stalker hood, so the Fiend's Cowl comes into play if you're running a double or triple frontline comp, and you know, usually one of the bruisers will run the Stalker hood, which means the other can run a Fiend's Cowl or something appropriate to what they're playing. Tanks are often running Fiend's Cowls as well now, but if you do have the triple melee, you can run the full combo. You can have one Stalker, one Demon, one Fiend's Cowl for max pressure. Blink shoes are an option. People are also running Graveguard boots and Scholar sandals, depending on, what the enemy's running. If you have energy trouble, then the Scholar sandals can come into play. There's a lot of options on shoes, and it's honestly down to your personal preference and what you think fits the matchup best. Overall, I do think bruisers are in a really good place right now. I still would like to see a bit more love for daggers coming back into the meta, but we'll see what happens next month. But right now, it seems to be dive comps left, right, and center. Finally, then, we go on to the range DPS in Albion, and this is the category where there has been the most change, in my opinion. There's been massive switch arounds, especially for the Frost Staff. So the Frost Staff got a new Q ability called Ice Shard, which is a ground targeted droppable AoE that lands and then does pretty significant damage when it connects. Now, it's got a shortish cast time, but when you combine it with things like Aggressive Caster, Scholar's Robes, and the Morgana's Cape, the cast time becomes insane, that you could just spam this and pound anybody that's locked in place. For example, if you had a Trinity Mace dive comp. Now, this has led to the Permafrost Prism rocketing straight into the top tier. It could do huge damage. It has an AoE stun ability from that Pineapple E, and on top of that, because you're playing a Frost, you have that double blink. You have blink on shoes and you have blink on your Frost Nova W ability, or you can even run something like Graveguard boots for counter dives and then blink on W. It's so versatile. It's no surprise that this has gone straight into S tier. Another Frost Staff, the Icicle Staff, is hanging just behind in A tier right now, because this is a bit more of a situational artifact Frost Staff. I still think it's super powerful though, specifically when the enemy is running a triple frontline. That Frozen Hell ability is just awful for them to play into. It makes it so hard to keep onto your targets that you're trying to DPS. I think, if everybody's running dive comps, then Icicle would be S tier. It's only because some people are running double backline that it's not. But Frost is absolutely bossing. The Great Frost as well, still a very solid option. So this stays in A tier as well. But Frost Staffs have just completely replaced Fire Staffs in the current meta. The Infernal Staff for Fire is still hovering in B tier, but like server wide, it's pretty much being phased out in favor of Frost. Another big surprise for me then was the Heavy Crossbow. A lot of people now deploying the Heavy Crossbow as one of the backline DPS options. If you're running 2 backline, Permafrost Heavy Crossbow, lock them in place with the Frost, and then blast them with the Sweeping Bolt. The additional range on the Heavy Crossbow Sweeping Bolt compared to the one-hand crossbow really helps for finishing off targets who are escaping on low HP. And I've seen a lot of Heavy Crossbows pairing up with bows. So you've got that mass shred from the Sunder Armor and the Enchanted Quiver, and then the long-range poke on them as they're trying to get away with the Deadly Shot and the Sweeping Bolt. The synergy's amazing. Heavy Crossbow goes straight into the S tier. It's being massively represented, and people are having a lot of fun with it. It's a really fun one to play as well. There's nothing more satisfying than hitting an amazing Sweeping Bolt. Another solid S tier choice, of course, is the Great Curse Staff, which is very unsurprising considering people are playing a lot of Nature right now. Nature is the main healer. The Great Curse and its Area of Decay ability, which removes all heal over times, is unsurprisingly very good. It's still got that insane Desecration AoE root ability, which helps with dive comps and kill pressure. You can control chokes with Area of Decay, and it just offers really good consistent damage output. Again, against triple front lines and people playing aggressive and diving, by keeping those maximum curse stacks on them, you could just mount the pressure on them and just prevent them from playing how they want to play. They can't, if they don't respect the 4 stacks of Vile Curse, if you're constantly stripping their hots with Area of Decay, the bruisers can't play how they want to play. Most curse staffs are also running the Fiend Cowl for the Purge, so if a bruiser then decides he wants to use his Hellion Jacket to stay alive, guess what? You've got an answer for that as well. So the Great Curse is a super good counter to bruisers that like to play deep, as well as huge, I liken it to the Halberd with that consistent damage pressure across the duration of a fight. Sitting just below in A tier, the bow, the Great Frost and the Icicle, as we said. The light crossbows all the way down in B tier right now because it's just too vulnerable to diving. People used to run the Crypt Candle with it, but it's just suicidal. The frontliners are running Fiend's Cowls. You know, they can purge your Everlasting Spirit. You can't rely on survival anymore. You blink, they swap you. You cleric, they purge you. You run Crypt Candle, they delete you even faster. So the light crossbows dropped a little bit. The Whispering Bow, still the inferior of the bow choices in my opinion. Some people are still running it, but it's not mega popular, and like I said, the Infernal Staff has dropped right down to B tier. It's still playable, but it's inferior to the Frost right now. The hot picks then, in the robe slot, you can Mage Robe for the purge, the Druid Robe for the damage, or the Cleric Robe for the defensive / damage option. Royal Cowl for those mana intensive classes. Fiend's Cowl for the purge on things like a curse or maybe a crossbow. Some people are even running a Mercenary Hood. If you need that defensive, if you're getting dived, Mercenary Hood is a good option. And Blink Shoes still seem to be the go-to, but don't count out Graveguard Boots even on those ranged DPS. Okay, so that's the end of this month's Meta Snapshot, guys. I hope you found it useful. As always, I'll be back next month with another installment. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment below if you want to talk about the meta. What are you playing? What do you think is overrated, underrated in the current meta? I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. On top of that, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And a thank you to all of the channel supporters on Patreon and those supporting with Twitch Prime. I'll see you next time, guys. Have a good day.